First of all, yes, I have one thing that's going to cure your ongoing content consumption. And it's pretty simple, but very effective. If you're like me, it's like, okay, I get shiny object syndrome. And like the next thing that comes out, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use that thing, right? It's gonna be the most awesomest thing ever. Like this Go 3, I used it on going up in an airplane, this video right here, and it was kind of cool because I was able to actually put the microphone inside the headphones that I had. And that's how I was able to capture the audio. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to capture the audio, or it would have been pretty difficult. So that was kind of cool, right? That piece of equipment came in real handy. But most of the time, it's just going to be a distraction because, you know, when you go out there to create, you've got all these options. It's like, okay, not only do you have to figure out, okay, what am I going to create? And then how am I going to tell this story? What kind of shots am I going to get? But which camera am I going to use? And so it all just kind of gets in the way. Right? Because all these different content creators have done that, and they get to this certain level, right? They decide, okay, here's the answer, you know, and they put out the answer. You have to, use LUTs. You have to do color grading, and you have to have story, and you have to have, chopping from here to here to here, and all those different things, right? But then on the other spectrum, you have these people who are being authentic, right? And they're authentic, and they just hit record. They don't do any of that, and they get all kinds of views. How can both be true? All right, check this out. This is a discovery trail, right? Here's the trail, and it's called the Discovery Trail, right? And so here we are, right? It's kind of a weird idea. It's a trail, right? So it's all been done before. I mean, look, here's this bridge, right? People have gone on it before, but you're discovering it for the first time. And so that's how it kind of works with YouTube, I think, with content creation is there's a path that's been done before, well-worn, but you're discovering it yourself for the first time. I consider it kind of like the microbiome. Now, for those of you who don't know microbiome, and I'm not saying I know everything about it, but basically it's your gut, bacteria. All the gut bacteria, the beneficial that's in there, kind of is a signature. It's from what you've eaten on a regular basis. And anyway, when your microbiome is healthy, in general, you're pretty healthy, right? But it's much more like your fingerprint in that it's specific to you. And I think each YouTube audience is basically the same way. Yes, everybody's creating. Everybody has a gut, but your unique way of creating, your unique angle is what makes or breaks the whole thing. And so when you think of the stupidness, when you think of like, oh no, I did this and it's not going to work, you've eliminated the one thing that's probably going to help the most, and that is curiosity. It's kind of remaining curious on what's behind the obstacles. Like, instead of seeing the obstacles as something in your way, using the 1% rule, so to speak, and saying, get 1% better at this or 1% better at that, and remain curious on what's possible, both for your own abilities and also your connection to your audience, and so on. And so in that sense, that one video that got 5 views, let's say, though you put a lot of work into it, went up an airplane, it still didn't matter. But you gained a lot from it. And that helps you with the next video and the next video and the next video. Now, the real question is, what's it have to do with an RV sabbatical anyway? Why mention creativity and creating on YouTube with a sabbatical? But I find more often than not with the sabbatical, that's what you're doing. You're creating. It's great for writers. It's great for content creators. It's great for getting out of your comfort zone and trying new things. And so that's why it matters, because I think more often than not, those who go on a sabbatical really tap into their creative potential. And part of that is because the culture itself and business in general is so hell-bent against being creative. I mean, you're supposed to do business. You're supposed to, be in tech and all that other stuff. And creativity, in its different forms, really takes a back seat. But when you're on a sabbatical, you get to explore all of that in a whole new way. And I'm convinced that creativity and the ability to express yourself that way actually opens up all new avenues in terms of flipping the culture on its head and finally getting to the core of what you want, what you're here for, and how you want to express yourself. I'm convinced, though, that creativity basically works in mysterious ways. Meaning, just this video even, I was going to go one direction, and it turned out to be something kind of subpar. So I decided to take it in a completely different direction, talking about the same thing, but kind of a different perspective. And I abandoned all of the different scripting, all the different shots, and I took those same ideas and went freeform. And so my question to you is, why do you think there's so many rules with creativity on YouTube? I mean, if you look, people are always like, the 5 rules for doing this, the 5 rules for doing that. Really, the one rule that I've figured out is to remain curious about your audience, about your creativity, about the potential. And when you do that, you connect with people, you connect with ideas, and you stop thinking about perfection, and you just go for it. So anyway, I think there's this confluence of like staying curious and having some idea of what you're going to do, and then maybe having some points, but also just doing a free-for-all. Just seeing what you can do, seeing what happens, responding to what comes in front of you, including people. I've spontaneously, in some cases, I haven't used them, but I've spontaneously interviewed different people, and maybe I'll use the interviews later. But regardless, I think creativity in its various forms, but especially with video, is one of those things that it allows for an unfolding. Like life itself kind of unfolds rather than, prescribing to a certain line. People want to go, a certain way. It has to go this way, and that's it. And I think creativity opens us up to the fact that life is squirrely. Life's going to surprise you in many different ways, and if you allow for that, if you follow that, it's a lot more enjoyable than if you just try to push through on one certain way of doing things, one line of, having a script in hand and having it to say it a certain way, and so on. If you consume too much content, like for me, I've noticed it gets so much in my mind that I think there has to be a certain way of doing things, and I really don't think that's true. I think it's finding what works for your particular audience, your microbiome of an audience, and then just going for it. Yeah, consume here and there to see, get new inspirations, new ideas, but in the end, let it go. There aren't so many rules as you might think, really. So if you found this video helpful, be sure to give it a like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.